Happy Sunday and welcome to My Left Ear. I'm Carrie Freeman. My Left Ear / Opinions Unlimited, because I definitely drop opinions here. This is video 283. It's a liberal YouTube channel and it's September 14th. So I'm going to start off with received a note in the post section of My Left Ear. And I think I shouldn't say the name of the person who wrote it, but it begins with an A, so you'll know who you are. And here was the note I received, and I felt like I'm going to answer this first. I'm going to do this first. Petey is here, and I think he's... oh, there he is. Pete, say hello to everybody before you go to sleep and turn around. Come on. Come here. People need to see that beautiful face of yours. Yes, they do. Look at that. Look at that boy. Okay. She wrote... He's very needy today, by the way. I'm not sure what that's about, but he's very needy. She wrote, I hope after viewing all the comments, you can offer us some consensus on where we are and how to proceed. And when I say proceed, I mean, what can the average person do and say to cope? I mean, do you see a silver lining in all this madness? So I just recognize this as just being really important and meaningful and sincere. And I allowed myself to just, I don't know, kind of do a stream of consciousness, that whatever came to mind. And let me just share with you some ideas. One of the biggest things that I do mention a lot is, although I'm not in a 12-step program, I think the Serenity Prayer is a wonderful prayer. And I think every day we do need to remind ourselves there's only so much we can do to impact these giant things that are happening in the United States and the world. Know what you can and cannot manage. And when you accept that, or one accepts that, one is a bit released from the need to fix, change, because there are some things that we can't really manage. We can do our spiritual work, we can do our light work, but this is really like, I can't fix that. You know, I can't affect that. Now, one thing is some kind of stability about forming habits and keeping some habits going, keeping some, like if you start a meditation practice or you have one, that you really super commit to it, even in terms of the time of day, and this is part of your foundation. So forming some habits like walking, meditating, and I tell you, I highly, highly recommend doing some breathing meditation. It's just sitting quietly, and in your mind, you're breathing in and you're saying the word I, and you're exhaling and you're saying the word am. And as your mind wanders to all kinds of different things, which it does, you bring it back to the breathing, I am. The habit of bringing your distracted thoughts back to the breathing is what trains your brain. It trains your brain. Trust me on that. And you can turn things off as needed. You know, you're listening, you're watching something, and it's not good for you or your sense of peace. Turn it off. There's a line from a song in the musical Book of Mormon, turn it off like a light switch. It's a great number. So you turn it off, boom, like a light switch. I'm not taking that in. I'm not taking that into my body and my mind. You certainly can talk to people about voting, and you could do some work about all the people that did not vote in this past election and see if you can get some voters out there. So that's some physical on the ground stuff. Get some pleasure going. I mean, you know, find things to laugh. If there's a funny movie, humor is really helpful. it really dispels a lot of tension in the body. So I want to remind everybody about humor. That's why a lot of people like the late night hosts. They tell the truth, but they bring humor, and it's a relief, okay? I hope everybody out there has one trusted friend, someone who's like-minded that you can really talk with, because it helps one from feeling so alone. Just having that person to share, and then you think, I'm not crazy. I just had this great conversation with so-and-so, and they feel a lot of the things I'm feeling. I'm not alone, and I'm not crazy. Then I believe, also, I think if you have nobody, there are places you can connect online. There's groups that you can connect online. You just have to do a little Google search. If you used to have a hobby and you drop the hobby, pick up the hobby. We need to distract, because taking in all this negative energy, we're taking it into our bodies, and it's not good. So there's a fine line between staying aware and then being able to detach. The meditation helps, promise you that. Now, I have a belief that I've shared with a lot of people, that I think it's important to talk to oneself. And you basically do it when you're alone. You do it in the shower. You do it when you're doing the dishes, or nobody's in the house with you. And it's really helpful. First, I want to tell you where I got this from. There was a man, a doctor, a physician in New York, who was very famous, like orthopedic surgeon, and he wrote a book called Healing Back Pain. I think someone recommended it. I know how I discovered him. I was watching the TV show 2020, and they didn't interview this doctor, but they interviewed some of his patients, and he had a couple of famous people, like Howard Stern was one of his people, that said, this guy healed me. And it got my attention because I had a history of lower back problems. So he wrote this book, Healing Back Pain. Now, what's weird about the book, interesting about the book, is he had his clients talk to the back, talk to the pain, and say things like, I know you're going away. I know that I'm suppressing important feelings or anger, and I will deal with them. I will deal with them now that you've pointed it out. But you can go away now. I don't need it settled in my back. And I realize that can be used for a lot of things. If you have an illness or the flu. So here's one thing. In the middle of your day, all day long, you can just stop and say, I am okay right now. I am okay right now. If you have a place to live, you have electricity, food, a refrigerator, a bed, a shower, and even transportation, you're doing pretty good. You have some basics that a lot of people don't have. You can tell yourself, I don't have to fix this. I don't have to fix this. And sometimes I say to other people, and I say it to myself, leave yourself alone. Leave yourself alone. That means stop beating up. Stop entertaining a million ideas at one time. Leave yourself alone. I think I want to get a t-shirt that says, leave yourself alone. Hands off. Leave yourself alone. So you talk to yourself. And you can look up Dr. John Sarno. And it can be global. I mean, it can be like, thank you for resolving the uprising. Thank you for preventing civil discord. Thank you for helping us feel safe. Thank you for making the right things happen. Because things change. This is just true. Things change. And that's a good thing to hang on to. Now, the other thing I want to say is I really love Albert Einstein. I don't, it's not like I've read a biography of his life, but I have a lot of his quotes and I love, and a lot of it is practical. But here's a story for you that and some of you have been with me a long time, have heard this before, but damn, I love this story and it helps me because it's a man who was genius in physics, okay? So this is like not, oh, think happy thoughts. This is like he's going scientific on us. So during the, that terrible part of United history with Senator McCarthy and the McCarthy trials, Einstein wrote his son a letter about this terrible part of our history that I think went on for 5 years, the McCarthy era, where people committed suicide, lost their careers. It was just unbelievably terrible. So he wrote it. This is what he wrote his son. There's something amazing about America's democracy. It's got a gyroscope. And just when you think it's going to go off the cliff, it rights itself. It corrects itself. So he's suggesting go right out onto the edge and it comes back. So I hold on to that because it came from Albert Einstein, and I hope you will too. Then there's a quote that I found this week by a woman who's deceased now, a woman named Florence Scovel Shinn. She was an American artist and book illustrator who became a New Thought teacher and metaphysical writer in the middle years of her life. And in these thought circles, she was best known for her first book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. And my therapist had recommended it to me. Here's what she said. If you hold a thimble of belief, a thimble is what you'll receive. So we have to like kind of expand and play with it and think of the higher thought, think of the higher outcome. Not a thimble, but like hold the belief as large and believable and protective, not a thimble, like, oh, I hope and I hope. No, declare it, think about it, hold a big container of belief for safety, freedom, democracy, and hold it and cherish it. So maybe some of this will help. You know, it's a very, very difficult time. Right now, it's like peaking, and listen, I get upset, I get scared, but my job is, I think, to support everybody, bring some light to what's going on if it's possible. So here's something great from CBS. Trump has scrapped plans to send the National Guard to Chicago for now. And it says they're going to Memphis instead. So in an interview on Fox and Friends last Friday, he said that he's no longer sending the National Guard to Chicago, says instead they'll be deployed to Memphis, Tennessee. And when I was talking to, working with Unltd, we were talking about this, and I said, you know, maybe 2 weeks ago when they were asking Trump questions about Chicago and infiltrating, I don't think they used the word infiltrating, he said, I haven't decided when yet. And I went, hello, I don't know that he's going to do it because of that one comment. It revealed that he was having some doubts, some second things. And here's the reason. Governor Pritzker of Illinois is a really smart guy. He went right into preparation for this attack that was threatening Chicago. He just mobilized, and there were some messages from, well, I say Twitter, X, from people in Chicago saying, wow, he is really preparing the streets, he's really working it. And so it brought Governor Pritzker like kind of to a new level, that all this planning scared Donald Trump. He didn't want to fail. He doesn't want to fail. And Pritzker's a strong, outspoken, fearless person, very smart. So here's runes. Did the felon president get scared of Pritzker and Chicago's preparation? So I got the rune of the self. And it's interesting because it's about goals, and get this, preparation. I mean, it's in the book, the word preparation, and the fullness of being and actualizing. So he made the most. He stepped up. And you know, with all the barking and declarations, Trump is, he's a ninny. He's scared. He gets intimidated. He backs off. That's where the taco came from. And it says, with this rune of the self, we must listen and listen to our master. So go inside and search for your true essence. Governor Pritzker has done that. Seek the truth within, and see if our actions are creating the negative situations we may find ourselves in. Well, that's not true. It's true of Trump. He creates negative situations every day. This is the man who ruined, 3 casinos, bankrupted 3, I think it's 3, and it is a rune of challenge. Be careful not to exceed the bounds of reasonableness. And if you notice, Pritzker didn't do a lot of talking and, chest pounding. He just went and set up all kinds of blockages and preventative situations in Chicago. Well, it's not going to happen right now, and it may not happen. So it is a rune of challenge, and the governor met the challenge. And if you cut this rune in half, the self, it represents joy and a good outcome. You cut it in half, all right? And it also says this self rune reminds us to connect with the whole of the human race, because we're part of it. And that's what the Trump regime cannot do, connect with the whole of the human race. One side is good. One side is good and one side is bad. That's according to Trump. So meeting these challenges promote personal growth. This is kind of escalated Pritzker. He might even run for president. He might try to do that. He's smart. He's fearless. I'm okay with that. Then we got the signals. This is the messenger rune. And it says, be prepared for messages of great import that will bring change. Signals, signs, messages, and omens are all things to be aware of right now. Be open and receptive. This change may not be comfortable, but it is coming. We know that. We're right in the middle of it, actually, right? So it also indicates change is on its way. We know that too. We sense that. But as some runes, not all, speak of both endings and beginnings. Okay? Finally, the last rune for Pritzker. And the question, did he scare the president? I'm going to say yeah, he did. But not by talking, by taking action and putting all kinds of physical things in place. So happy for Chicago. That's kind of where I grew up. So I'm going down here. The last rune for Pritzker is partnership. And it's certainly not partnership with Donald Trump, but it's partnership with all of us, because the actions that he took to protect Chicago speak to all of us in the United States, we all wish we had a governor like that. I do. I mean, I don't wish. I have Governor Newsom, so I'm so grateful, Governor Newsom. And that's the partnership, is Pritzker's partnering with what is right and what is true and correct. And it's good. So he's a rising star, and the big deal is this guy prevented Trump from going in there. It's just fabulous. Now I'm going to move on. After Charlie Cook was killed, I watched some college students, not necessarily in Utah, I don't know where they were, being interviewed. And they talked, let's see if I can explain this. They were bright kids. They talked as if the left had caused this thing with Charlie Kirk. That's how they were responding, because one young female said that this is going to get, this death of Charlie Kirk is going to give them permission for people to die and be shot, and it's as if they were reacting to the left when the left wasn't involved. It was really off and very worrisome. And that's a whole generation that are tweaked. That's all I can say. They're young, they're vulnerable, and they're taking in some bad information, and then they're influencing each other. So I am worried. I am concerned. Now, someone on Twitter made a brilliant suggestion. They said, why doesn't the Democratic side of the House introduce a Charlie Kirk gun control bill? I think it's brilliant. I mean, I just think it's brilliant. He was very pro-guns. So he was, it's ironic, right? That's what killed him. He was very pro-guns and the ability to arm oneself and blah, blah, blah. And then he was shot and killed. Ironic, but a Charlie Kirk gun control bill, because it puts it in the face of the GOP. You attach the irony, Charlie Kirk gun control bill. It's real. I don't know that it will happen, but it's really a good idea. Now I'm going to move on to our favorite FBI head, Kash Patel, and my screen blew up, so we have to go back and fix that. Come on, so I can read it. All right. So what you may or may not know is that the night of September 10th, of the murder had happened earlier, Kash Patel was at a high-end, expensive restaurant in New York called Rayo's that evening, having dinner. And he was having dinner the same day that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, and the shooter had not been found yet. Well, first he announced they found him, and it was the wrong person, okay? But the dinner, this high-end, expensive dinner that he was eating, was going on while the FBI was still processing the murder at headquarters. And he's having dinner. That tells us a lot. I mean, this is not a serious guy. He's really riding high on his expenses and all the benefits and perks of his job. He's a very unserious person. So I asked the runes, will Kash Patel leave the FBI? And that could be he's fired or he resigns. Either. So I got the rune of growth reversed, no growth. And this is what it says. Aspects of character interfere with the growth of new life. Hello. And you, even though you may be dismayed at failing to take right action, focus on diligence right now. Strip away until you can identify obstacles to the growth. Well, he's the obstacle to his own growth. He's unserious. He shouldn't be in that position. He knows nothing. It's like taking an influencer, and oh, well, that's what happened. Then I got the chilliest rune in the deck, Stand Still. It represents the property of ice, which is so interesting because so much of us are saying ice. Ice invaded, ice caught them, ice murdered somebody. But it says, stand still is the property of ice. The winter of your spiritual life is upon you. This is not good for Kash. You may find yourself entangled in a situation to whose implications you are blind. And you may feel powerless because he's getting pummeled for his lack of experience, his foolishness, and his inability to act. They fired half of the FBI because that's what Trump wanted. So it's just folding. The FBI is, the way it is now, is putting us in jeopardy. It says, Kash, positive accomplishment is unlikely right now. There is a freeze on your useful activity and your plans are on hold. You must submit. I think that's enough. He must submit. And it also tells us to prepare. It tells him to prepare, not us. Be prepared. Be ready when the ice melts, Kash. It's probably melting right now. Submit and be still. It did it again. It did it again. So the last rune is interesting for Kash. It's the rune of protection. But it's really about him being under the umbrella of Trump's protection, okay? And it says for protection that it represents the mighty elk, the animal, the elk, who knows when it's time to retreat and consolidate. So right now, I think Trump is trying to figure out what to do with Patel because he's such a loser. But then who will he put in that spot? So I can't for sure tell you that he's going to resign or be fired, but these runes are dark and they're not good, but they do talk about protection. And it tells me that Trump may come in, like he hasn't gotten rid of Hegseth, he hasn't gotten rid of Gnome or anybody yet. So I don't know he's going to do that with Kash because Trump doesn't like to be wrong, but I can tell you Patel is on the thinnest ice possible. I mean, when you get ice and you get growth reversed, this is kind of like coming to an end with him. All right. And the last room. I watched Charlie Cook's widow speak for 4 minutes, and I was done. First of all, anybody goes through that shock and trauma because she was there when it happened, has no business really getting up and speaking politically. She's not in her right mind. She's traumatized. She's grieving. And someone in the know should have said, why don't you wait a week and just take care of yourself, take care of the kids. But she came out kind of guns a-blazing. And in a way, she threatened. Like, you have no idea what you've unleashed. Wait till you see what you have unleashed. Well, that was a MAGA that did that. That was a 22-year-old kid. So who are you talking to? Because the left had nothing to do with this murder. But she was very unsavory. That's a nice way I can put it. And I turned her off. So I asked, and then I got this idea. Will Erica Kirk be offered a job in the White House? Because she could. She could be like Caroline Leavitt's sister. I mean, she has that look that Trump likes. And she was a beauty queen, I think, from Arizona. So we got the blank rune. Blank is the end. blank is the beginning. It's the end of Charlie. Maybe the beginning of her new career. But it says it's evidence of your true destiny, Erica. And it's like you're rising from the phoenix from the ashes of what is called fate. And it portends a symbolic death. And it may relate to some part of her life that is no longer applicable, of course. And it talks about relinquishing control. She is not ready to step in to anything, but she doesn't know it. She's angry and she's in mourning. The unknowable is at work. That's what, this is saying. And it does say forces that are moving unseen in the background that you can't even know about yet, Mrs. Kirk. And it advises her, be with the blankness, be with the quiet, and trust. Just stand empty before you take action and you make threats. She's foolish. To me, she's a foolish little girl, but she is in mourning and she's hurting. Partnership. Okay, partnership came up. And that would be a job offer. And it would benefit Donald Trump. He could use her like he uses people. So it's kind of likely he might get this idea to bring her into the White House as a very sympathetic character. And I do believe that she will end up, like not in 6 months, with another partner. I don't think she's going to remain alone. And then finally, the last rune of this question about Erica Kirk, disruption. It's like a little bit like the Tower card in the tarot. And it says, it mentions breaking free from constricting identification. And I don't think it's impossible that she, without Charlie, that she could start to make some changes in her point of view. Not likely, but it's possible. She could take over his podcast. She might do that. But I also think it's possible that Trump will get this brilliant idea and she'll be, because he likes to use people as tools, and he would use her. He doesn't care about anybody. Nobody. So the thing is, she might go into the White House as something, and disruption happens. Like she comes into chaos. It's a bad mix. It's a bad idea. So I think it will be very bad for her if she took a job, and way too soon. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And the last thing I'm going to address is Kamala Harris's new book called 107 Days, which is how many days she was on the campaign trail. And I have not read it. Someone sent me like a little paragraph from it, and she was in the paragraph, which I didn't copy and I don't need to read to you. She was pretty resentful of some of the things Joe Biden did and said. And this is the first time that we heard her disgruntled. I imagine she was disgruntled, but nobody knew. She just kind of handled herself. And even things she said about like loving Joe's family and when I read the excerpt, I was very disappointed. I'm just telling you about me. I was sorry because of the way it was worded. It was harsh and her anger came out. And I was like, whoa, if I had been her advisor, I would have said, find another way of saying that, Kamala. This is just a little too harsh, and it's a surprise because there was no indication at all that there was this anger in her. So she wrote the book in collaboration with an author named Geraldine Brooks, and it's all about the campaign. Now, she got a raw deal. I'm going to tell you that I think Kamala got a raw deal because Joe delayed. He wanted to run again. He should have kept his promise and just stepped aside so she could go right into it. But he delayed, and it caused her to only have 107 days to campaign. Well, then you add on Elon Musk and his money and the Butler pretend assassination in Pennsylvania, because I don't think it was real. I don't think it was real. So here's some questions that I just put out. Did she make a mistake? I know I was disappointed and annoyed, but did she make a mistake? I'm not sure. She spoke the truth. It made me sad. I wish she had just found, but here's the thing, I write, and I've had editors and proofreaders, and so here's my question. Did she approve the final galley? So that, did any editor say, look at this, Kamala, do you want to maybe reword this a little bit? Did anybody ask her that? Did someone else write it? Did an editor write it and she failed to see it? So the book delivers a little harshly, and it's just another angle to her. I'm going to go to good evidence now. I'm going to kind of rush through it a little bit because I'm going over. Good evidence for me are the many people that I have already met, done sessions with from the September 3rd collaboration I did with Unltd. The nicest people. I have met the nicest people. Smart, creative, soulful, warm. It's very, very special. Really, I've loved meeting everybody. All right, and there's more. This is the second good evidence. Public opinion and government actions across Europe indicate a widespread negative reaction to Donald Trump. They don't like him, and they're pulling the plugs on things. The concerns center around trade policy, security commitments, and Trump's handling of the Ukraine war. Third, this is the last one in good evidence. Florida just overperformed in a special election. And my left ear is calling David Jolly for the win. So I reached into it after I declared him for the win, and I pulled the rune of warrior. So now I'm even more convinced that David Jolly is going to beat Ron DeSantis. From my mouth to God's ears. Okay. And now we're going to go quotes. Found a really good quote by Thomas Jefferson. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. Kind of just nails it for where we are right now. And then I had found this quote, and I don't know who said it, but it's very comforting, so I'm going to share it. I may have shared it a couple of weeks ago, but nevertheless. Things won't always be this way. Change is coming. Now, at the beginning of this video, I talked about change and that things don't stay the same. Things change. Hold on to that. Hold on to things change. And hold on to Albert Einstein. This is probably going to autocorrect, as dark as it feels right now. There's more of us than there are of them. They're just louder. So I've gone a little over than I should, so I'm not going to talk anymore, but I'll see you next week. And good to see you on a Sunday. Make peace. Keep the faith. Stop the busy mind and take breaks. Go get an ice cream cone. Have a laugh. Watch something funny. All of those things help. You just take these mental vacations. We got this far, so we'll get through. All right, my friends. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.